Okay, cool.
Hello, commissioners.
Hi, everyone.
I will get started in just a few minutes.
Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we hear you.
Happy New Year, everybody. Can y'all hear me?
Yes. Happy New Year.
Oh, okay.
Commissioner Pinckney, it's Barbara Rogers.
Hi, Barbara Rogers. How are you, darling?
I'm good.
That's good.
How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm home, on the mend, one day at a time. How about you?
I've been under the weather last couple of days, but I'm feeling better.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm trying to get used to this cold weather.
Honey, yeah. I don't know how we're going to do that. It keeps coming. Hmm.
We'll get started in just a minute or two. Our chair's on the way.
Good evening, everybody. For those of you who are joining us online, sorry for making you wait a moment. It's good to see all of you. We have a fairly small crowd in person tonight, understandably so, given the weather. So thank you all for joining us, whether you are dialing in or zooming in, and a special thank you to those who made it over here tonight in person. So hope all of you are warm on this very cold January evening. My name is Anthony Parati, Commissioner for ANC 4D08. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's meeting, the first of the new year. So we'll get started. And Secretary George, would you like to take attendance?
Sure. Commissioners, when I call your name, please say present if you are present. Commissioner Pinckney,
Here,
Commissioner Abell. Here. Commissioner Lucarelli. Commissioner Corniatis.
here,
Commissioner Morensic.
Here,
Commissioner George is here. Commissioner Weigel.
Here.
Commissioner Parati.
And I am here and we have a quorum and we can get started. First up, we have tonight's agenda. Secretary George, anything special we should know about the agenda tonight or any changes?
No, nothing special, no changes.
If there are no objections, any objections for any of the commissioners or additions?
Yeah, actually, do we have to add that we're going to approve Q1's QFR this evening?
Without objection, we can add it. Any other changes or edits?
And I believe we're not doing 2023 Q4 because we did that at our last meeting. So I'll just
Correct, yeah.
swap those.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Any other changes or edits? Hearing none, agenda is approved by unanimous consent. First up tonight, we have elections for officers. So for those in the public who are here, every year the ANC has to choose its officers. So first thing we have is choosing officers for 2024. Just as a reminder for commissioners are free to nominate any of the commissioners for any of the officer positions, including themselves. No second is necessary. And also under Robert's rules, if only one person is nominated for the position, then no vote is necessary. The person becomes or assumes the position by what's called acclamation. So first up, we have a chair position. Are there any nominations for chair?
I nominate Commissioner Parati.
Thank you, Secretary George. Any other nominations? Going once, going twice. Hearing none. Commissioner Parati is chair by acclamation. Next up, we have nomination for vice chair. Can I have a nomination?
I nominate Commissioner Lucarelli.
Commissioner Lucarelli, are there any other nominations for vice chair?
I nominate Commissioner Weigel.
Nomination for Commissioner Weigel. Any other nominations for vice chair? Hearing none, we will have an election by ballot. So for commission.
1 second.
Yes, sir.
Does Commissioner Weigel want to accept the nomination? Is that I wasn't aware.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to accept that nomination formally. I've got a really busy future.
Yeah,
ahead
I
of me
can
tomorrow.
imagine. I'll withdraw that nomination and support Commissioner
I-
Lucarelli's nomination.
I am flattered, but I need to be realistic about a new baby.
Thank you, commissioners. Any other nominations for vice chair? Going once, going twice. Hearing none, Commissioner Lucarelli is now vice chair by acclamation. Congratulations, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Next up, we have nominations for secretary. Can I have a nomination?
I nominate Commissioner George.
Commissioner George for secretary. Are there any other nominations for secretary? Going once, going twice. Hearing none, Commissioner George assumes the position of secretary. Congratulations, Commissioner. And finally, we have a nomination for treasurer. Can I have a nomination?
I nominate Commissioner Corniatis.
Commissioner Corniatis for treasurer. Are there any other nominations? Going once, going twice. Commissioner Corniatis has been treasurer, will assume the position of treasurer. Congratulations, Commissioner. Excellent. Next up, we have a meeting schedule for 2024. Commissioner George, anything that we should know about this meeting schedule?
So Commissioner Parati, you and I had chatted about potentially doing something different with the June meeting since it's the third Wednesday of June is Juneteenth. I suppose we can either approve a different date today or approve this set of meetings as it stands and then potentially revise our meeting schedule at a later date.
Are there any objections from any of the commissioners to pushing back the meeting from June 19th to June 26th? That would delay it by 1 week.
Or alternatively, moving it up, because I think we may have more weeks ahead than behind that month.
June 12th instead? Any thoughts from any of the commissioners?
The only consideration for me is elections. We might wanna, do we know the dates of the primaries and things like that? Looks like there's no,
DC primary?
yeah, I don't see any conflicts there, so
Yeah, I think it's earlier than that.
it's earlier than that, it's June
It's
4th.
also on a Tuesday, not a Wednesday.
We're avoiding the week, so yeah, no objections.
Any preferences from commissioners on the 12th or the 26th of June? Given the fact that July has a 5th week in it, I'm going to propose that we push it back to the 26th. Any objections to that?
I think that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, no objections.
Excellent. Any objections from any of the commissioners on the meeting schedule? Excellent. Okay. We'll have a formal vote at the end of the meeting, but sounds like there are no changes or objections. Next up, we have minutes from the December public meeting. Commissioner George, anything we need to know?
Nothing we need to know.
Any edits or changes from any of the commissioners?
I sent my changes to Commissioner George.
Was right. I saw that, Commissioner Pinckney. There were 2 edits that you had made. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Hearing no other changes, the minutes are moved into the record. Next up, we have a treasurer's report from Commissioner Corniotis. Commissioner Corniotis, how are our finances?
Good evening, everyone. Our finances are quite healthy. I'm going to, can I share my screen?
I'm sure you can, but I don't know how to do that. So maybe someone else.
Oh, I
could
can
help.
see it. I can see it. Just give me one moment.
You may need to change your permissions or something. Commissioner Cornelius, let me know
Oh,
if it's visible to you.
Actually, it's disabled at this point, so.
Here, let me make you a co-host and see if that works.
Yep, that works. Thank you. Okay. So this evening we're voting on two primary treasurer items. One is the Q1 FY24 Q1 quarterly financial report. Our total funds available during the quarter was $20,700.71. We reimbursed the account for communications, $847.56. We distributed a grant of $3,500. So the total disbursements for Q1 was $4,347.56, which leaves our ending balance at $16,353.15. So that's the first thing we have to approve, and I understand that we approve at the end of the meetings, but I just wanted to show the public or display to the public our Q1 quarterly financial report for fiscal year 24. Secondly, we have to vote.
Before you move on,
yes.
Commissioner, can I just ask if there are any questions from any commissioners?
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Hearing none, you may proceed, Commissioner.
Okay, secondly, we have to vote this evening as a commission to not buy in, but to become a part of the security fund for the city, which costs $50. But it obviously provides security to our account. If anything, if there's any and like, why am I blanking on the term? But in any case, it provides security, and each commission throughout the city has to become a part of the security fund. And so again, that will be a cost of $50 to our commission.
It's essentially, Commissioner, like insurance, right? For our
Yes,
finances?
for our finances, yes.
Thank you. Any questions from anyone for Commissioner or Treasurer Cornelius? Nope. Hearing none. Anything else, Commissioner?
I think those are the two primary items. As Commissioner George mentioned, at our last meeting, we approved the quarterly financial report for Q4 of 23. And also during October's meeting, I believe, we also approved our budget for the year. So all of those items will be uploaded and recorded by the Office of ANC.
Thank you, Commissioner. And next up, we have comments from city officials. We'll start with Councilmember Janice Lewis George's office. Is Ms. Barbara Rogers present this evening?
Yes, I am here. Can you all hear me?
Ms. Rogers, the floor is yours.
Okay, I was trying to get my camera to work, but let me see. Hold on. It's not working, but anyway, you can hear me. I only have just a few updates, but I wanted to say Happy New Year to everyone, and also want to say congratulations on the new officers. So the first thing is we have started this month our Listen as We Climb series. This is something the council member has done every year since 2020. And she will hold these meetings, I think it's 6 total meetings in the community, where she will hear from neighbors, gather community input to shape the work on legislation oversight and the DC budget. In the past, the feedback we received at Listen as We Climb meetings from neighbors and ANC commissioners has actually led to tangible legislation and budget investments on issues like abandoned vehicles, clean corridors, small business support, conflict resolution, and others. This meeting will set priorities for the council member for the year. We have Petworth and Brightwood Park coming up on Tuesday, January 23rd. You will receive an email from me tomorrow. It is from 6:30 to 8:30. It will be at Roosevelt High School. But more importantly, tomorrow, we're having a Ward 4 public safety meeting at E.L. Haynes from 6 to 8. That is tomorrow. We will have Chief Smith there, Commander Levenhouse will be there, Attorney General Schwab will be there, and Lindsay Apaya will also be there. So we are hoping to see you all there at the public safety meeting tomorrow. All right, just a few updates on DC services. The emergency rental assistance on January 2nd, the website portal to apply, as you know, closed down after only 4 hours, with a maximum number of 3,500 applicants that they will process for each quarter. As things stand, residents will have to wait until April 1st for another chance to apply for rental assistance. Leaf collection, the second pass of DPW leaf collections continues in Section B, which is 16th Street Heights, Crestwood, Petworth, and west of Georgia Avenue. I think I mentioned this last month. DC Lottery is open, and also the 24-hour Metro bus service has also started. And I just have one more update. And that is about the SNAP expansion update. 140,000 DC residents, 1 out of every 5 DC residents will be getting an increase in their SNAP food assistance thanks to a budget amendment Councilmember George introduced in DC budget this year worth nearly $40 million. This will help thousands of family, children, and of course our seniors who had their SNAP benefits reduced once Congress earlier this year stopped their contribution there. We are grateful for the change that so many DC residents will get the aid that they are dependent on. And we want to thank everyone who spoke up about this issue and helped turn the tide. And if you are not on our newsletter, we put out a newsletter every Friday afternoon. Please sign up for our newsletter at www.ward4news.com. You can also text us to get the newsletter to your phone to 202-286-5268. And that's all I have. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Can I just ask a quick clarifying question about tomorrow's public safety meeting?
Yes.
Is the council member going to actually be participating in the meeting? The reason why I ask is because I know a number of neighbors have expressed interest in understanding a little bit better her position on various crime initiatives and crime legislation. And I'm just curious if they'll have an opportunity to question her tomorrow or whether that would be a different forum.
Yeah, I think tomorrow is focused on public safety while we have the leaders there in the room. But I would say to come out to one of the Listen as We Climb, that would probably be a better opportunity to meet one-on-one with her on her position.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Appreciate that.
Sure.
Question from Commissioner Cornelius.
Good evening, Ms. Rogers. Just a couple questions. One is, I believe we received information from DDOT that at the intersection of Emerson and Illinois, they don't agree that a 4-way stop sign is necessary. Is there a way to question that determination or ask for reconsideration? 1. 2 is, I believe, my neighbors, my constituents, and myself would be in favor of a raised, crosswalk at that intersection of some sort. Do we have sort of the backing of Councilmember George? Does she have any additional idea of how we could resolve that intersection's safety? And then secondly, in terms of the public safety talk tomorrow evening, I hear you in terms of our constituents attending one or more of the council members Listen as We Climb discussions, but would the council member also be willing to attend one of our public meetings in the relatively near future?
Yes, and I think I got an email for her, but she did have a conflict. I did send it to Sharnisa Royster, her scheduler. However, she does want, I did mention it to her, she does want to come to a future meeting. So let's see if we can make that happen for next month.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. And Commissioner Cornelius and Ms. Rogers, do you want to follow up separately after the meeting about those specific intersections? Would that be helpful?
Yes, that'll be great.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lucarelli, did you have a question or are you withdrawing?
Well, I just wanted to, just as the, the local transportation planner on the commission, CC, I would avoid, when you speak with Ms. Rogers after, I would just avoid using prescriptive language like raised crosswalk, because again, those are very nuanced and the grading has to be kind of like at a sweet spot, so to speak. Otherwise, they get very expensive because you have to build a trench drain, and those things get clogged with leaves, and all kind of rodents make nests in them. And so, anyways, just you could use a phrase like study traffic calming and safety improvements. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Other questions for Ms. Rogers from any of the commissioners? Great. Thank you for coming, Ms. Rogers. Next up, I'm sorry?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you for coming. Next up, we have Mr. Derek Johnson from the mayor's office. Mr. Johnson, thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you all for having me. Can you hear me? Okay,
sir.
great. I appreciate the invitation, and I likewise want to congratulate all of the new elected officials in their new capacities as officers. So I also wanted to bring you some new updates from the mayor's office as we celebrate the new year. We look to public safety, as we've heard over the last few months, and we just heard back that Councilperson Pinto was able to bring out of her committee legislation which is called the Secure DC Omnibus. And that legislation does include some of the mayor's priorities that she had pushed forth earlier in 2023. So that was Safer and Stronger Act 2.0, and then the Act Now legislation from earlier this fall. And what that means is this legislation has the potential to empower MPD around issues of carjackings, drug-free zones, retail theft, making it unlawful to use masks for committing criminal acts as well. And likewise, we know that the broader omnibus legislation will include issues of gun penalties, increasing victim protections, establishing new felony offenses for strangulation, pretrial detention, creating a rebuttable presumption in favor of pretrial detention for violent crimes committed by juveniles and adults, body-worn cameras, permitting officers to review body-worn footage in advance of testifying before any courts. And then with regard to DC Sentencing Commission, increases the council and mayoral's representation on the commission. And then also with regard to vehicular chases, it allows officers to pursue vehicular chases if there is imminent danger to the public. And so this is a wide, broad omnibus legislation, and we welcome what's going to be future input from the public, and those dates will be coming soon. So I will make sure to keep you all updated on anything coming down the pike with regard to public safety. As we know, Council Member Janice Lewis George is going to have a public safety meeting on tomorrow as well. And I also wanted to note that we were just in leaf collection mode with DPW, and overnight, just recently, we had this nice sized snowstorm. So DPW has pivoted to snow collection. And I want to congratulate DPW and also DGS, who maintains government properties in the DC area, because coming out of the past few years, it's been no snow. And so their preparedness and their ability to flex and pivot with this recent storm is a testament to their efforts to stay in the forefront of getting out and being prepared. And so while there are some off streets that still need salting and plowing, which you can make 311 requests around, for the most part, the city has gotten cleaned up very quickly. And so want to give them a big shout out as well. And that brings me to another thing. The Office of Volunteerism, Serve DC, offers senior residents and residents who are unable the ability to have their snow shoveled by volunteers. And if that's something that you are interested in, you could email me directly. And my email is Derek, DEREK .Johnson, JOHNSON @dc.gov. Likewise, you could also email directly to the Office of Volunteerism at dc.gov V as in Victor, S as in special, P as in po' boy, dcvsp@dc.gov. And you can include your first name, last name, your address, and a contact phone number, and you'll be put on the list to have your snow shoveled and removed for you. I also want to highlight for you all that while it is cold weather, we're celebrating Restaurant Week from January 25th through Sunday, January 21st, and we're encouraging residents to participate and support their local restaurants. So that's something. Participating restaurants will offer multi-course brunch and lunch menus for $25 to $35 a person, and then also multi-course dinners from $40 to $65 per person. So that'll be a great way to help support our local communities. And then likewise, my colleague Barbara Rogers mentioned ERAP, and it did close on January 2nd. We look forward to it reopening April 1st. And when it reopens on April 1st, the allocation for applications that they're going to take will bump up to 8,500. It's for the last quarter was just 3,500, and DHS, seeing the need, has increased it to 8,500. So that'll be a great assistance for the emergency rental assistance program. And I will provide more details as we show up. And so I'll pause here to take any questions that the commission and the public may have.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Questions from commissioners first. First, we have a question from Commissioner Pinckney.
Yes, good evening. Derek, how are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Good.
In terms of the snow removal, does that apply to both renters in apartment buildings and private homes, or is it just for single family homes? What is there a difference?
Yes, so for apartment buildings, that is to be maintained by the property management. So they should endure the responsibility for salting and snowing those properties. This is typically for single family homes, and if needed, some 2 to 3 unit family homes where the property is not maintained by a property manager.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem.
Commissioner Cornelius.
Good evening, Derek. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Commissioner.
A couple questions for you. I believe there was a shooting this afternoon at 3rd and Upshur. And I know that the public safety meeting is tomorrow, which is timely. I apologize, Jennifer's in the background. Hello, Bubba. Anyway, so basically my question is the mayor and council member George on the same page regarding the significant uptick in crime in our ward specifically? And what's the game plan? What's the strategy, both short term, medium term, long term? And secondly, I believe, and I don't want to, speak for Commissioner Pinckney, but I believe the issues with rat infestation, et cetera, in her building have not, progressed in a positive direction. And so I would like your maybe counsel or advice on how we can address, the public safety health issues that are, obviously occurring in a senior living facility. Those are my 2 questions. Thank you.
Yes, so for the shooting on 3rd and Upshur, I did have the opportunity to speak with the watch commander earlier today. And so what we know is this was a shooting that seems to be targeted to an individual. That individual was shot in the left arm, and they were taken to the hospital, treated, conscious and breathing at the time of the shooting. And so there was a lookout for a blue Mercedes. And what we'll do is ask neighbors if they do have a video camera recording around 1 to 1:30 time frame with any blue baby blue Mercedes in it, that they could share that with MPD. But this is another opportunity to say that the mayor does have a program, a rebate incentive program, where neighbors who deem or have the desire to get a video camera, Ring camera, they can get a rebate reimbursement. And as long as they're willing to share that information and video with MPD, that's the agreement for the program. So as much as I know, that is where we stand with the investigation, but it seems like it may have been targeted to one individual. Likewise, what I'll say about the integration of the mayor's thoughts and the council members' thoughts about crime, I think both of them would say that it is a issue, and we hear that public safety is a grave concern. And so the mayor's put forth legislation to see how we can affect some of these things, and it's being considered in council right now. And so in as much as Council Member Louis George supports the legislation, I think they're on the same page.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner George.
Oh, and then I'll say lastly about the rat infestation
Oh.
with Commissioner Pinckney. She and I had definitely been in touch with this on this topic. I know that she has had the various 3 agencies, Department of Buildings, Department of Health, and Department of last one escaping me, but come out to the building. And so what we can do is figure out what that looks like. I know I spoke with her and both Department of Energy and Environment around getting an air quality test, and it was determined that DOEE does not do that for specific buildings. They do it more so for the quality of the air index in the outside realm and not inside buildings. And so while we are concerned about the health hazard that it is, we will look forward to working with Commissioner Pinckney on next steps and how we can figure out how to hold, it's a multitude of issues, as she knows, so hold those who are responsible to get that fixed for the building itself.
Thank you. Commissioner George.
Thank you, Chair Parati. I have 2 questions for you, Derek. Thanks so much for coming out. One on public safety. I remember, I think the story broke last month that the real-time crime center that is an interagency coordination is supposed to, I think, launch maybe next month. Correct me if I'm wrong on those details, but I'd love to hear more if you know more about that, about just what's going on with it and what to expect. And then the second thing on snow removal, as you can see, I rode over here by bike. One thing that I think, I would love to see DPW work on is if there are ways to be a little bit more systematic about snow and ice removal from the bike lanes too. We're supposed to be expecting a lot of snow this year, and it would be great if those could be safe to ride quickly after a storm as well.
Yes, no, thank you. I appreciate both of those. With regard to snow for bikes, that's something that I've heard and we're raising with DPW and Director Sprigg. So more to follow on that, but I will definitely keep that highlighted for my director. And then with regard to the Real-Time Crime Center, Command Center rather, I know that it is a consortium of various federal, local, and I guess surrounding jurisdictions, public safety officers that will all be housed in one location so that they could do the work of real-time analysis with regard to crime. I can find out any more with regard to how the stand-up of that is going and what it actually looks like for the day-to-day operations.
Yeah, that's great. You're mentioning the pulling security camera footage of the blue Mercedes made me think of that.
Right.
I think I would assume that's the sort of thing that it should hopefully help with.
Thank you for the question.
Commissioner Bell.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you, this is related to the rat issues, and a lot of alleys right now are covered in snow, but I've noticed around my SMD specifically, there are a lot of alleys that are accumulating trash, which is contributing to the rat issue. And I think this is also related to what's happening in Commissioner Pinckney's neighborhood as well. So I wanted to ask, I had trouble going on the 311 website to find the ticket for alley cleanup. I didn't see a specific one. There was one for sanitation inspection, which I've attempted to do with an alley behind Kennedy Street on the 600 block of Kennedy Street. There's the alley behind it, which is also the alley behind my apartment building, has a lot of trash accumulating. And I sent an inspection ticket, which was closed, and it said it was referred to for alley cleaning and that I could also start a ticket myself. But I'm not seeing the option for alley cleaning or street cleaning. So if you could help me with that. And then another constituent, this is on 300 block of Kennedy Street. They live on Missouri, but they share an alley with 300 block of Kennedy Street. And they've said that for the past 2 weeks, they just had their trash picked up, but 2 weeks before that, for two consecutive weeks, they didn't have their trash picked up. And they suspect that the reason is that the construction on 300 block of Kennedy Street is blocking the alley, and so, you know, DPW is not coming through. So I just want to know how do we, like, what is the solution to that? One, to the solution of, you know, construction traffic blocking an alley and access to it. And then what does DPW do in that case? If you know, if that day you can't pick up trash, are we going to have constituents, you know, not having their trash picked up for 2 weeks? What are the other solutions I can pursue? And, you know, I can connect you to this constituent as well over email. Yeah, so I'm just worried about alley cleanup. How do we improve it and things like that? Yeah.
Okay, so I actually have a couple of potential solutions, and then we can definitely be in contact as well. And then I want to loop in a concern that Commissioner Mercenary brought to my attention as well. So with regard to rat abatement and enforcement, there is a petition that you can circulate. I can get you the information for the petition from the Department of Health for a rodent control. So what you do is go around to your neighbors in your neighborhood and ask them to sign the petition, which strengthens the ability for DOH to come out and do the whole block all at once and to include alleys. And I know that's something that folks have tried in the past. So when Gerald Brown from DOH came here, he had mentioned that as well. So I can get you that petition so that we can determine how best to get the neighborhood working together with regard to rat abatement. And then also there is a request that we can make if it's not readily available. I'll have to double check 311 myself, but we can always make it on X or Twitter, formerly Twitter, and they will respond directly with the number and they'll allocate it in their system. So we can work together on that as well. And then lastly, with regard to the construction, great thing, question, because I've heard this before. And so usually when they're doing construction, they have the signs posted that say, hey, these blocks are no parking. And usually there is a contractor contracting with DDOT, that's not DDOT itself, but the contractor information that you can contact about the specific workers on the specific block that's blocking the alleys. And then we can take that information and be in contact with parking enforcement. And so what I can do is be in contact with you on email about that particular block, and then have parking enforcement double down in that area just to double check about not blocking specific lanes for people to get their trash picked up.
Yeah, just to add to that, this is also the same block on that, you know, on 3rd Street. This is 3rd Kennedy and Missouri, that little triangle is having a lot of parking issues. And the bus that I mentioned at the last meeting it's all in there. So like maybe we can find a way to just, that whole triangle seems to, it requires some parking enforcement.
So actually what we can do is think about, each month I host a core team meeting with members from various agencies to include DPW, MPD, and some of the agencies responsible that you're mentioning. So we could have a walk in that area with you to come out, and we can survey it in real time and make recommendations about how we can move forward.
I would absolutely love that. Thank you.
No problem.
Commissioners Lucarelli and Cornelius, in the interest of time, would you be able to follow up with Mr. Johnson after the meeting so that we can move along with the agenda?
Yeah,
Yeah,
of
that's
course. I
fine.
just wanted to
You can put it in the chat.
state that I put the rodent petition in the chat for everyone.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks to you both. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Johnson.
you all.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, I just wanted to let you know that I have to take off early tonight around 7:30. So I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Thank you, sir. We'll hopefully we'll get through as much as we can before you leave.
Yeah, no, don't rush.
Next up, we have a guest from College Bound here tonight.
Hey, wait, is it on? Okay. Hey, y'all, my name is Haley. I'm the volunteer coordinator for College Bound. There's a presentation coming up in a few seconds.
Sorry, my computer appears to be a little frozen as I try and share this presentation. It has really frozen.
If it's not coming up, I can,
Yeah, why don't you, maybe you can start and
yeah, I can go ahead
I
with that.
can
It.
keep working.
So I'm here to talk to you all about mentorship. I've heard a lot in the conversation about the crime rates. Well, the average person committing crime in DC is between the ages of 13 and 17. So they're being mentored by somebody. We want to make sure that they get good mentors, which is why I'm here to talk to you about College Bound. There is a mentor deficit. College Bound has been around for over 30 years of service, mentoring kids from metropolitan DC public and public charter schools. So Latin, we have a few kids that currently go to the school that we're in currently, and we have kids who've graduated from here. So that's why I love this place too that we're having here, because I can use it as an example. To be a mentor, it's a commitment of once a week for 2 hours. We spend 2 hours scrolling through our phones. We can spend 2 hours mentoring a child, help them get into college, help them with career exploration and looking for scholarships and filling out those FAFSAs. It is at one of our 7 locations, and it's all after school hours or after work hours. So it all starts between 5:30, 6, or 6:30, depending on the site location in which you choose. You'll work with one specific student. We'll do male to male and female to female as a matching part of policy. And then you'll help them really guide them to where they want to do in their next steps. College Bound offers everything from STEM tutoring as well. So if you have a student that's not in College Bound, that's in the grades of 5th through 12th grade that needs help in those STEM classes, we have free tutoring options for your student as well. So I can open it up for questions because I know I just gave y'all a lot of information about College Bound. So.
Questions for Ms. Haley? Commissioner Lucarelli.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that.
Okay.
Having trouble. Yeah, yeah, I just wanted to thank you for coming. You know, I ran into one of your colleagues on the Metro. His name is Andre. I don't know if he's with you. I can't see the whole scope of the room, but you know, he was a really energetic and gregarious lad. He was, you know, just engaging random people on the platform. You know, he had a lot of gall and he carried himself very well. But when I started to listen to what he was saying, I really tuned in and I was like, you know, we need more people like this, especially in 4D, because he was engaging you know, who were clearly at-risk youth on the subway platform at rush hour. And he was like, you know, I mean, he was making school sound cool in how they were uncool, you know, in a lighthearted, jovial way for not being engaged in those things, because that's what presents young people with real opportunities is when they educate themselves and so forth. And so, you know, I pulled him aside on the train as I was about to get off at Georgia, and I was just like, dude, like that was some really straight up talk right there. Let me get your information because I'd like to have you come speak, because I think at a minimum, it would be an opportunity for College Bound to expose themselves to 4D and perhaps additional mentors. So while I personally don't have the bandwidth to do that, I would encourage others who do to sign on, because you know, as you can see, the program worked really well for Andre, and I can see him working well with other people. So it's just, the more the merrier. And we could definitely use that up here in 4D where, unfortunately, a lot of young people, don't have the right role models in place for reasons none of their own, but, are just trying to make it day to day. And so it's good to share those experiences with people so that they go on to live the fullest. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner
Thanks,
Weigel.
Carson.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to ask if you have any specific sports for students with disabilities. I work in special education, so I'm just like hypersensitive to kids with IEPs.
So it isn't a sport, it's more so preparing for college and career exploration. So we'll go through like FAFSA and like DC Tag, DC Tech, and we'll go through, or I'm sorry, DC CAP, and we'll go through all of those with our students just to make sure that they get out of high school and into college. We have 100% high school graduation rate and 100% college acceptance. Oh, there we are. 100% college acceptance rate as well. So it's mostly for academics.
Got it. Do you support any students with IEPs? Because we definitely have kids that are diploma bound and college bound with IEPs.
Yeah, we do have students in college bound that does have IEPs,
Heck
but
yeah.
we'll always review the IEPs to see if we have the capacity to meet the students' needs. And if we don't have the capacity to meet the students' needs, we have tons of resources that we can refer the student to. So let's make sure they are taken care of in the best possible way.
Got it. There's a lot of post-secondary transition programming that Division of Specialized Instruction where I work offers for students. This is great. This is definitely like a step up from that, connecting them directly with an adult mentor. But we have one, it's the CEO program that would definitely be for probably students that might not be college bound, but students that are career bound. And then a few other ones like RSA Service and Workforce Development Center. My goal is just see more of this stuff kind of fall under one house. So it's really easy for our students in their last 3 years of school to start to see what their next step will be. Like, what are some viable options that I could take and supports that the city's offering.
Yeah, and students can join college bound in the 8th grade. So we really try to exposure is everything. Cool. So we try to make sure they get as much exposure as possible, but we can't do it without the help of mentors. So we really need mentors as well.
And Ms. Haley, besides the QR codes, is there a specific website that we can refer people to who might want to just go there directly rather than go through the QR code?
Collegebound.org.
Collegebound.org. Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate you coming out.
Thank you for having me. And if y'all ever want to get in touch with me personally, it's Haley, HAILEY at collegebound.org. And you can just email me.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have
sharing that link, Abel.
I'm sorry, what was that, Commissioner?
I noticed that Abel had
link.
shared the link in the chat room.
Got it. Perfect. Thanks to you both. Next up, we have reports from different committees and task forces. First up, we have Commissioner Pinckney. Anything that we should know about the Kennedy Center Library? Kennedy Street Library.
No, they just held a series of he just had a series confirming the new person for the assistant mayor who will be in charge of actually signing the money over in purchasing the land and the property. I'm seeking to have a meeting directly with her or with someone in that office to find out if they actually had received or gotten word about our request to have RFPs, etc. Because right now, it's like crickets. I also have a young lady, she's a doctor at the University of Maryland, who is almost finished with creating the petition for our communities to sign in support of the library. Those are two things that are going on with that right at this second.
Thank you, Commissioner. Quick update from me from the Public Safety Task Force. So Public Safety Task Force completed its work at the end of the calendar year. We had about a dozen or a little less than a dozen people who volunteered their time to think through issues related to public safety in our community. They came up with a series of concrete recommendations. Some of these are larger recommendations, like we have a more formal way of communicating with MPD, the needs of the community. Some of them are very specific, smaller recommendations of little things that we could do to improve safety at specific parts of our community. That report, we're just finishing up the editing now. It should be ready by the end of the week to turn over to the commission for commissioners to read through and to think about whether they want to adopt any of the suggestions therein. So I just want to say thank you to all of the neighbors who came out in November and December to think about these issues and to share their thoughts and ideas. So thank you all so much. Next up, any announcements from commissioners? Commissioner Lucarelli?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to say that Commissioners Pinckney and I are working to finalize a grant application process, and we look forward to presenting something at the February meeting with respect to same. So just a quick update on that, because I know that folks are eager, as well as we are, to start submitting applications. So if there are, specifically, if you or anyone, and by you I mean those on this call, know of any 501c3s in 4D, please let them know about this information, and that if they're interested in learning more about what that process will look like, we'll have that from a regulatory perspective for your review and consideration next month. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Any other updates from any commissioners or announcements? Okay, we'll move along. Old business from last month, we have an ongoing issue with Marta Bar and Lounge. Commissioner Cornelius, I don't think there are any action items tonight, but are there any updates for us that you need to share? If not, we can move along.
I think we can move along. Overall, we, Commissioner George and I, tried to have some sort of mediation with Marte Bar and Lounge, and it just seems as though we have a long way to go to find some sort of compromise.
Well, thank you, Commissioner, for your work on this one. Next up, we'll move on to new business. Just a couple of quick reminders to commissioners in order to make sure that we fit everything in. Per our agreement, we've all agreed to restrict our individual commissioner comments to 2 minutes or less. And so I have a timer. I'll be keeping time just to make sure that we fit everything in. So please don't be offended if I interrupt you because your time is up. First up, we have an issue related to 333 Delafield Place Northwest. Commissioner Morensic, this is yours. Would you like to introduce it?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Chair. Are the members from 333 available to talk right now?
Yes, we are, Commissioner.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and let it go to you. I'm sure you have a presentation. This is about a zoning adjustment, so I'll leave it to you to go ahead.
Great, thank you so much. I do have a presentation. It looks like I'm still disabled with screen sharing. There we go.
I just made you a co-host. You should be able to present.
Got it. Okay, can everyone see the presentation?
Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you so much for hearing us tonight for this application at 333 Delafield Place Northwest. My name is Zach Williams. I'm a land use attorney with the firm of Venable. With me tonight are the owners of the property, Vic Narula and Chirag Patel, as well as our architect, Dave Bloom. I have a brief presentation. I can go through this application, and then we'll be available for Q&A as well. Here's a snapshot of the zoning map that shows the property in question. Again, it's 333 Delafield Place Northwest. This is an RA1 zoned property on Delafield Place. And as you can see, the primary type of structure on this block are apartment houses, 2-story apartment houses. Here's a survey of the existing property today. It's a single lot, about 3,300 square feet of land area. As I said, it's zoned RA1. That's a residential apartment zone. And currently on the property exists a two-story apartment with 4 residential units. Here are some pictures of the current conditions of the property. On the left is looking straight at the property at the front of the property from Delafield Place. And on the right is a picture of from the alley of the rear of the property. As I mentioned, these are a two-story apartment house. These types of structures are typical on this block of Delafield Place. The proposed project is fairly straightforward. It's simply to add 2 units to the existing cellar space. No exterior changes to the structure will be occurring here. The only change outside of the existing structure is to add 3 parking spaces to the rear that are accessible by the alley. Other than that, the application is fairly straightforward. As I mentioned, it's simply to add 2 units to the existing building. Under the DC zoning regulations, adding units to an existing apartment house requires a special exception, according to a recent interpretation of the zoning regulations by the BZA. Here, that is the only issue in this project that requires BZA relief. Everything else is permitted by right. As you may be familiar, whenever seeking a special exception in DC, there's essentially 2 standards that you have to meet. The first is that the project must be in harmony with general purpose and intent of the zoning regulations. And this project is the RA1 zone, as I mentioned, is designed for low-density residential apartment houses, which is what this will be. The project will meet all of the development standards in the RA1 zone, except for lot occupancy and density, which are existing today, will not be changing. Further, as I mentioned, the neighborhood in this block in particular have several apartment houses, including the houses on both sides of this property that are of a similar nature, 2-story apartment houses just like this one. The next standard for a special exception is that the project may not or shall not adversely affect neighboring properties. Typically, we think of light, air, and privacy when we analyze the standard. Here, there shouldn't really be any adverse impacts because, again, the footprint of the structure is remaining the same. No exterior changes are occurring, no additions, no additions to the rear or no additions to height. It'll be exactly as it is today. The only difference is the cellar will be converted to 2 additional units. To mitigate any potential impacts of those additional units, we'll be adding 3 parking spaces. The property currently does not have any parking. I did want to note that the next door property, 329 Delafield Place, went through an identical application just earlier last year. It was supported by the ANC and approved by the BZA to add 2 units to the cellar. The difference there is that application actually was not adding any parking spaces, but it was approved nonetheless. Here, as I mentioned, we'll be adding 3 spaces. That concludes my presentation. And if there's any questions, as I mentioned, we have our architect here, we have the owners here. We'd be happy to answer any questions that might be from the ANC or from the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. First up, we have Commissioner Lucarelli. 2 minutes, sir.
Hi, sir. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. As the resident urban planner on the board, I'm obviously keen to, I was very keen to listen.
You just muted yourself, Commissioner.
That was my mistake. I obviously support it because we need more density, but I wanted to talk about the parking real quick. So, will the parking be unbundled from the cost of the rent?
I'm going to turn that question over to one of the owners to answer. I'm not sure if we know yet, but they may.
And so the reason I'm asking is because if the parking isn't unbundled from the rent and someone rents or purchases this without a car, then they're inheriting the cost of something that they're not ever going to use. And so I just want to make sure that we're approaching it from an equitable standpoint. And studies have shown that when you unbundle the parking, it's more equitable, right? Like as an example, the condo building I live in has 2 parking spaces out back. They're both fee simple. So no one assumes the cost of that space except the people that purchase it. So thank you for your time and consideration. And again, I would encourage everyone to support the project.
Sure. Shirag or Vic, are either of you available to answer that question?
Honestly, I don't think that was, this is Vic Narula. Good evening, everybody. I don't think I have an answer for that. I don't think that was actually, we took that into consideration. I mean, around there, uh, I, parking is, not a major issue, at least when I've been there. I know that in the evenings, it can be. But I'm sure we can take that into consideration from what you're saying, of potentially making it a fee simple if that ends up being a condo conversion.
Yeah, and not to complicate it or design this for you all, but the thought behind it is just that, if that the parking be leased or sold separately from the unit, if that makes sense. Because again, if this is still a quite walkable part of the city, you're not very far from the metro, and so it's attractive to people that have cars, but also people that don't. And so, unbundling the cost of that space, which someone may or may not use, again, is a little bit more equitable. So I would just ask you to consider it. But with that, my time here has expired tonight. I have to go. And I look forward to seeing everyone next time around. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Commissioner Weigel, 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Chair Perotti. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. One thing I would just add on with like a few seconds for Commissioner Lucarelli's comment. I know there's definitely leases in the city that include a parking place, and if you don't have a car, then you can elect to rent it out, like whatever the rate is, for like $80 a month. So you can put an advertisement up for parking. This might not be the most like best place for parking. That was more of like a Shaw, Adams Morgan thing when I lived down there. My question though, that's a separate topic from parking, but it does have to deal with the back of the units. Every day between 5 to 5:15, I'm usually walking up 4th Street to go get both of my sons from Barnard Elementary School. And on my way home, it's pretty regular occurrence that I'll notice, I would say, like I work in education, so I'm just going to label like middle school to high school age kids who will go around the backside of Delafield and then obviously into the back of those construction sites. Lord knows what, I'm not going to report it, right? But it's definitely unsafe. And what I want to ask is if there's any measures for security or like requesting an increase of patrols on that back area, or if the owners have noticed that they frequently have break-ins, tools missing, issues like that, because it seems like it would, it does kind of invite that, given like how often I see just people using the back of the construction site kind of like a playground.
Hey, this is Vic again. So I will say, from what I know, the contractors haven't mentioned anything. Now, I don't know if they take their tools with them, just knowing the neighborhood, because even before that construction started, that just the back of the neighborhood, I mean, we were getting a lot of illegal dumping just in the yard alone. Right. And so we had talked about, okay, do we put a taller fence, temporarily, what is an option? So I'm certainly happy to figure that out.
I wonder like the Moker had mentioned earlier, like the coverage for video surveillance, like if that's something that couldn't be explored, that you guys just have a video system set up there to monitor something if it happens, right? That could become something that's targeted by the community as well and like costs you money. I know they do have a pretty robust reimbursement system for that.
Right. And and I think we can take that back and see if that's a viable option. Absolutely. Now, the one thing is I don't know the neighboring property that's under construction as well. So I'll see if they don't end up in ours, they may end up in theirs, unfortunately.
Exactly. As we can say, it's like a perfect storm that they're both under construction at the same time.
Yeah. And so it's easy escape for them if they're in one and they just jump into the other. So, but I'll talk to my team and everybody else and just see what we can do to help mitigate that, because I completely understand.
Right. Because it's like private property law, all that stuff, it gets really dicey depending on where you are trespassing specifically. And also, like, I don't want to make the opportunity ripe for kids with underdeveloped minds below 25 too.
Absolutely.
So making sure that it's physically not super easy, and there's a visible, like, we're taking your pictures when you're here, and kind of thing, just a reminder of that, because a lot of that goes a really long way.
I completely understand. So I will certainly very strong consideration.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, that's all I got to say.
Thank
And
you.
let's give the last question to Commissioner Pinckney.
Yes, good evening. Thank you for your presentation. I have a question. Is it still required in zoning that for construction or project of this type, that the residents that live on each side of the property must have a full presentation or be talked to in depth about the construction, the project, and what's going to happen? And then there's a certain mileage of people around that also have to be brought together a couple of times so that they're aware that this construction is going to happen, so that they can also let you know what it is that's, I mean, you talk about things like when the construction is going to happen to ensure it's not late at night with the banging, or some people, the people on each side may not agree with putting up a tall fence. And I believe I saw in the paperwork that there has to be a submission to verify that the neighbors have been brought together to know exactly what the project is going to entail. So has that requirement changed? Because I believe a lot of the discussion from the last commissioner would also be answered by having those conversations with the people who live next door, immediate, and within the 20 miles or however many miles it is.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Commissioner.
thank you, Commissioner Pinckney. You're raising some good points there, and I want to see if I can answer them. So there's two things involved with a project like this. First, there's the zoning approval, which is fairly narrow. The only zoning approval required here is to be able to add 2 units. Everything else is fully by right. It's permitted within this zone. And so that's the zoning approval. Then you have your construction permits. And when you go to get your construction permits, there's often the case that you need to advise and get signatures from your neighbors to do various types of work. That's not always the case, but it's often the case, depending on the type of work that you're planning to do. So right now, we're only talking about the zoning approval. The construction permits will come later. That is the second phase of the project. And that's not the focus of the BZA or the application tonight. What's being presented tonight is simply that zoning approval to be able to add 2 units. With respect to the neighbors, the one neighbor sought this exact same relief and got it last year. So they're already doing the same project, literally the same work, right next door, adjacent home. And with respect to the other neighbor, my understanding is that the owners have reached out and put them on notice of this as well. In addition to that, as part of any BZA case, we're required to send out notice to all of the neighbors within 200 feet of this property. And that's already happened. And we're also required to post notices on the property. That has not happened. That will happen prior to the hearing. And to maintain those notices and to make sure that they're up and that they're visible. So there's various forms of notice that are required by DC law, and we'll make sure that we do all of those. If we don't, we'll get called out on it. We're required to do that. Another thing that we're not required to do, but that is highly recommended, is to meet with you all, the ANC, and to seek your support because you speak for the community, and to meet with our SMD, which we did, our commissioner, who speaks for the single member district that we're in. So we've sought to do that, to put the community on notice, to seek feedback on the project. And ultimately, that's the purpose of the meeting tonight, and why we're here, because we want to make sure the community is aware and there aren't any concerns that we haven't addressed.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Okay.
Appreciate that. And Commissioner Pickney, if we could just, could you follow up perhaps later, just because we have other items that we need to get through?
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Appreciate it. Next up on the agenda, we have 5006 North Capitol Street. This is also Commissioner Morensic.
Hello again, everybody. Yes, so this is another application for zoning. This is a representative from Sullivan and Barrows here. Miss Harcum, I believe, are you available? Let's see. She knows that it's on the agenda. Miss Harcum, are you there? All right, well, I'm going to try and text them to see, but it's a similar sort of application. This one is for 5006 North Capitol Street. They are changing their dwelling into a 2-unit flat, basically just adding another residential area, residential unit to their already existing building. They're not making any substantial changes, if I recall. I'm going to send her a text to see if she can hop on real quick, but I'm just going to leave that for now. We can move on to the next item if you'd like.
I was going to ask you, Commissioner Morensic, do you want to answer questions about the property, or do you want us to put this on hold and move on and then come back to it later?
I'd like to put it on hold because I'd prefer not to speak for them.
Okay. So the next item is yours as well. It's the Hampshire Gardens Co-op. Would you like to pause while you're texting and we can come back to that too, or are you prepared to
Sure.
speak about it?
Yeah, we can do that because let me see. Is the representative from Hampshire Gardens here?
Yes, I'm here.
I know that they're eager and I'm eager to hear from them too. So why don't we go ahead and let them go ahead?
Okay. So, and I'm sorry, who's the person from Hampshire Gardens? What's your name?
My name is Emily Kester.
Ms. Kester, thank you for joining us tonight. The floor is yours for the next few minutes.
Great, wonderful. And first of all, thanks so much, everyone, for taking the time to hear from Hampshire Gardens during this meeting. I'll give you a very brief background. Hampshire Gardens is a historic landmark and a cooperative. We're on New Hampshire and Farragut. And last year, we were very grateful to this ANC for passing a resolution on our behalf. We have a number of major repairs that are coming up because we are coming up on our 100th anniversary. We have quite a lot of structural repairs to do around brick repointing, as well as upgrades to our HVAC and to window replacements, among many other things. We're also a very diverse community. About half of our residents are persons of color. We have about 25% seniors, and the majority of our residents are low and moderate income. So given our demographics, we're concerned about the need to kind of balance essential repairs in line with the requirements of a historic landmark, while at the same time not pricing out our long-term residents. So last year, this ANC passed a resolution on our behalf advocating for historic homeowner grant funding to be made available, or to at least make Hampshire Gardens eligible for historic homeowner grants. Last year, the ANC submitted a resolution asking A, for all historic landmarks to be eligible, and B, for multifamily homes to be eligible. We were very grateful that the council at least made all landmarks eligible, so we were eligible in that regard. But unfortunately, multifamily homes are still not able to apply, at least not cooperatives, because we are not homeowners, we are shareholders. So that's still that leaves us in a really tight spot for accessing any kind of historic DC funding. So we've been in touch with our council member, Janice George. We've also met with Chairman Mendelson to get their take on the issue. And their recommendation was that we propose an earmark for DC Council for the budget this year. And the earmark would basically be our way of being able to access some city funding to help refurbish our buildings, even though there's not technically an application process for multifamily homes yet. When we met with Janice Lewis George's office, they also said that an ANC resolution would be helpful. So that is where we are tonight, and why we've asked our commissioner to put forward this resolution for all of your consideration. So happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Ms. Kester. Questions for any commissioners? Mr. Bell.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask a little bit about the building and the renovations you're doing. Can you tell me a little bit about the utilities used in the facility, any gas utilities? And I just wanted to know if, this is kind of I'm just new to the building, so I don't know it. And if it is being retrofitted, what the utilities will be after the renovations.
Yeah, so right now, we do use Washington Gas. We have a boiler system for heating, and we just have window units for cooling. For this particular pot of funding, though, we aren't looking to revamp our utilities. This would primarily be for brick repointing. So it would be structural. So we're exploring some other avenues to kind of upgrade our energy systems, particularly in line with the new building performance standards. But that would be a kind of separate effort. For this particular effort, it would be structural. So looking at brick repointing and any accompanying repairs, such as stormwater management. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Other questions for Ms. Kester? All right, thank you, Ms. Kester. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
Next up, we have a resolution on the DC Clean Hands Bill. Commissioner Bell.
Thank you. So I have circulated this resolution with everyone, and I hope you've had a chance to review it. I'm just gonna quickly go over the material, and we have some folks here from ANC 4D who are affected by this and would want to speak as well. I'm not sure what the proper order is, Chair.
We would have them speak during the community comment section because we won't vote until after they've had a chance to speak. So they'll have an opportunity to speak then as well to the.
Sure.
the
So
resolution.
I'll just use this time to present it, and then we'll have more opportunities to discuss. Okay.
Exactly.
So the resolution I'm presenting would endorse a bill introduced by Councilmember McDuffie and the DC Council that makes a number of changes to the Clean Hands Law. The Clean Hands Law currently disqualifies anyone that has an unpaid fine or fees owed to the government over $100. And if you owe these fines, you would be barred from having any permits or licenses or grants or contracts with the DC government. This precludes many occupations in which that require a license. Over 125 occupations are covered by Clean Hands, but many others are as well. This bill we'll be endorsing would do two things. One, for any occupational licenses, and these are certain chapters in Title 47 of the DC Code, and then Title 3 of the DC Code. For these particular occupational licenses, it would waive the Clean Hands requirement. And then also for any other Clean Hands requirements, it would raise the threshold in which it would be required from $100 to $2,500. So if you owe fines above that, you would be barred from getting permits. But for any occupational licenses, there would be no clearance necessary. And that's basically what this bill does. It affects many jobs that are in our neighborhoods, and some constituents here from 4D will be talking about this if we have a chance later. So I hope I can gain your support. Some of the other things that this resolution does, besides endorsing, it asks the committee, which is also chaired by Councilmember McDuffie, to hold a hearing and to mark up this bill. And we also have a recommendation here, which was suggested by the chair, that we not have the $2,500 locked in place, but have it tied to some economic index. And that's basically what this resolution does. I'm happy to take any questions if there is time for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Comments or questions from commissioners? Commissioner Cornelius.
I suggest, given the feedback we received from Commissioner Lucarelli and Pinckney, that we move to vote on this next month after our executive meeting where we can discuss further.
So that's a motion to postpone. So we need, in order to do that, we need a second.
Joy Pinckney, second.
So we'll take a vote. All in favor of postponing, say aye.
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 Those opposed?
No.
No.
So that's 2 noes and 4 ayes by my account. So that means the motion carries. So that means the motion is postponed until February. So we will take up the resolution then. For those guests who have come tonight to speak, though, you're still welcome to speak during the community comment section, and that will be helpful to hear, I think, for everyone. So thanks to you all.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner.
because, well, I'm very clear about why we want to postpone it. And I absolutely am for it. But we as a commission together have not had opportunity to really discuss it because it's so many pieces, and all of us need to be on one page if we're going to say, yeah, we're for this bill. And right now we have a few more questions. So we just would like to take a little more time and to do this right. Okay, I think that the spirit in which Commissioner Abel is bringing it to the table is excellent, and I appreciate him even being on task with this. Okay, so I just want to put that out there. So even the public who's there to talk about it, absolutely, we want to hear their stances too, because the more information that we hear, the better decision we'll make to be able to move forward in the best interest of our constituents in 4D, period.
Duly noted, Commissioner. For the record, just to underscore, Commissioner Bell, this is not a motion to kill your resolution. It's just simply a motion to postpone it for further discussion till February.
But if I could respond to one thing, just to address, I didn't notice Commissioner Lucarelli's email till now. The concern seems to be about speeding tickets. But
In any case, it's no longer on the agenda, so we'll have to postpone the conversation till next month.
thank you.
So thank you, sir. Next up, we'll circle back to 5006 North Capitol Street. Commissioner Morensic, were you able to?
Hello.
Representative?
I did not get a hold of them. I can give their brief rundown. They are just. Can everyone hear me? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Basically, it's a row house that they want to add a second unit to. And there's no change of easement or anything like that. They're not adjusting any parking spaces. They're not expanding the property. They're just adding a second unit to make it a flat as it's qualified. So I don't think that we'll have any issues with it. If folks are not comfortable with voting on approval right now, then I'm okay with postponing it. But I'll open to suggestions from my other fellow commissioners.
Questions or comments from commissioners?
I personally would be comfortable voting on it myself, just because it's so minimal. And as far as I can tell, based on the BZA website, they've complied with the notice requirements for neighbors.
Yeah, and I'll say they reached out to me. I think maybe we got our communications crossed with them, but they've been fairly responsive with me, and they sent us a copy of their entire application, which I circulated last month. So I feel comfortable enough voting on it as well. again, I leave it up to my fellow commissioners.
Commissioner Menza, could you just remind me, I apologize, but I know where that block is, but I just can't picture the specific units on it. Is this one of several multi-units on that, in that area, or is this the only one that is divided? You know?
This is a row, so a block that has row houses. So it's not an apartment
Okay.
building.
Thank you.
And I can share my screen if you want to see their application, if anyone needs a refresher.
Any commissioners like to see the application? Any other questions from commissioners? Okay. Next up, we will turn it over to the community for community comments. So any member of the community is permitted to ask questions or speak. If you are present and you're planning to speak, we just ask that you use the microphone so that everybody can hear you, and just introduce yourself so we know who you are. We would also ask everyone to keep their comments to about 2 minutes or so that we can make sure that we accommodate everybody. So do we have questions or comments or thoughts from anyone in the community about any of the items on the agenda this evening, or anything else they'd like to bring up? Please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Teresa Goodwin, and I'm a street vendor. And I've been sometime on 14th Street up in Columbia Heights, Anacostia, and Columbia Heights. And what y'all I'm gonna vote on later. I just want to say that would be helpful for us, because I just got my clean hands, me and my son, and it is difficult. And during that time, I was having a little personal issues, and it made it kind of hard. So I'm coming up again to renew my license for the next upcoming 2 years. And that would be helpful for me and my colleagues right here to be able to afford what we need to just street vend. Some of us just like to street vend. And it's a different culture for me. And it's something new for me that I just went into a journey with my food industry. And to see people out there, where I'm from, we didn't have that. And then when I came here, it was like totally different. And I'm like, now I'm liking it, because I get to meet other countries, people from other races and stuff, and just mingle and learn new things, and the way they cook. And it's just a little community up, especially up there on 14th Street. It really is. It's a little community of us up there. And I just want to just put that out there so that we can be able to afford to pay our fines, because we just want to just do stuff we love to do, we have a passion for, but we want to be able to be affordable and respectable for the community and for the city as well. You know, and I am grateful that we won the part of so far of decriminalize it, because there's nothing criminal into that. It's just a group of people that at a certain age can't find work, and just something they love to do, and trying to keep food on the table for their families and stuff, and be able to afford to pay their bills. That's all we asking, just for a little nudge up or a little nudge down. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Oh. No, go ahead.
Teresa, if you could, you didn't mention where do you live, and if you could. And we need a translator.
Yes, I live in
Marie,
this
and
ward here,
she's
and I
taking it
live
up
on
for
809 Kennedy Street. Miss Pinckney is actually my neighbor. Hi.
Hi, hey, babe. And guess
Hey,
what?
babe.
I'm your commissioner.
Yeah, okay. You know,
So-
now I know. I didn't know at first.
So,
I met Miss.
yeah, well, then I look forward to speaking with you
Okay.
about this and a couple other things.
Okay. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
you're in my building.
Yes, ma'am. Now I'm not in there today. I'm actually at the meeting tonight.
No, but
I'm in. Yeah, I live in your building. You
Yeah.
pass me all the time, Miss Joy.
I know. Well, I haven't been here for more than a month.
Okay.
Tell me your first and last name.
Teresa, good one.
Oh,
205.
yeah. Okay, Miss Teresa.
Yes.
Well, then I'll be talking to you soon.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
y'all.
Thank you, ma'am. We have a hand raised from Ms. Macarag, Felix?
Thank you so much. That's Felix Macraeg. My pronouns are they. You could just refer to me by my name. Thanks so much. I will go as quickly as possible, but I will be testifying consecutively, bilingually, so that Mari Guzman, our other member who is here and a Ward 4 street vendor, who lives at 810 Longfellow, can understand,
Great.
if that is
Thank you.
okay. If you can allow me. Thank
Yes,
you
of
so much.
course, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, hello, my name is Felix Macraeg. I am the organizing director of the Beloved Community Incubator. So I'm here to testify with and accompany two of our members, Ma Teresa and Mari Guzman. They're two proud Ward 4 street vendors. I am a proud Ward 4 resident, though I do not live in 4D. And they're also members of Vendors United, Vendedores Unidos. Both Ma Teresa and Mari Guzman, I want to say, I'm so proud of them. They're going to be in training with us as we support them to form the Vendors United Catering Co-op. I've been organizing with street vendors in wards 1, 4, 2, 5, 7, and 8 for over 5 years, since 2018, when Ward 4 and Ward 1 police were regularly, not a exaggeration, assaulting DC street vendors. To 2023, when I got to be with them, when they saw themselves get a unanimous vote of the council on the largest overhaul of street vending code in DC's history. Also not an exaggeration. The historic legislation decriminalized vending without a license. It also created a path to comply with regulations by removing steep barriers to compliance. This included people just like Ma Teresa and Mari Guzman were right there when they won the micro enterprise home kitchen licenses, among many other reforms. One of the most critical was fees that they had accumulated with the Office of Tax and Revenue and other offices. We are really excited that Councilmember McDuffie is moving forward yet another piece of street vending reform and is going to reduce barriers that the Clean Hands Law throws in front of really incredible micro entrepreneurs like Ma Teresa and Mari Guzman. And I want to ask you as commissioners, as another Ward 4 resident, to please be activists about this, because the DC Council wasn't even going to hear any legislation to decriminalize street vending or to create reforms to the regulatory regime until one ANC, it was 1D, I want to say, really started passing resolutions and really got this moving. I'm also really excited because these reforms to the Clean Hands Law will help micro entrepreneurs, predominantly like our Black and Brown people, to be able to access business licenses. And it's just an important piece of workforce development for folks to get them into the formal economy. Okay. Pues Mari, yo voy solamente a repetir esta parte. Mira, yo estaba trabajando con los Vendedores Unidos desde el año 2018, cuando la policía de los distritos 4 y 1 atacaban y acosaban regularmente muchos de los vendedores. Y yo podría que estar con ustedes cuando ustedes ganó una reforma más profunda en toda la historia de DC para dejar los vendedores acceder reglas en una manera más justa, más simple y más suave. Y también despenalizar vender sin licencia. Street vending without a license is what's called a crime of survival. And people really leaned into it during the pandemic, and it's become a whole thing. And I'm just really encouraged. I want to thank Commissioner Amene. I'm really encouraged that you all are willing to consider this in February and just really remove one of the critical barriers for DC's smallest entrepreneurs to be able to have jobs. Okay. Pues Mari, cuando usted hace tu testimonio, porfa, toma un pausa cada 3 frases, porfa. Thank you so much, commissioners.
Okay. Muy buenas noches. Mi nombre es Mari Guzmán. Soy una de las vendedoras de los Vendedores Unidos que estamos con Mega. Desde hace tal vez ya más de 10 años que hemos estado luchando sobre la licencia.
Okay, pausa, Mauri. Hi, my name's Mari Guzman. I'm one of the members of Vendors United, and I've been fighting with Megan. Wow, it feels like 10 years for access to licenses. Sigue, amor.
Sí, yo soy aquí también de este lugar de Washington, D.C. Yo vivo en la 810 de la Longfellow Street Northwest. También soy residente de aquí de Washington. Pues yo estoy aquí también pidiendo también de su ayuda que nos puedan ayudar también sobre la licencia. Ya no queremos ser más acosados por la policía.
Pausa, mi amor. Pausa, pausa. Also, I'm a proud resident here. I'm a DC resident. I live on 810 Longfellow, and I really want to ask you to really support us to get our licenses and not be harassed by the police anymore. Sigue, Mari.
Sí, sí, entonces eso es lo que nosotros estamos pidiendo, porque muchos compañeros y han tenido también un arresto, otros han tenido un ¿cómo se le llama? Ay, ¿cómo se le llama?
Multas, deudas.
Multas,
atrás.
exacto, unas multas atrás de las que tal vez las personas que las han arrestado no han podido pagar hasta la fecha, porque no es una multa poca, es una multa que siempre le han puesto de 300 para arriba. Entonces,
Okay,
eso no,
one segundo, okay? So I'm just here to tell you that some of my compañeros, like friends, comrades, neighbors, in the street, like they were vending and they got fines and fees from the police. And these aren't just little fines, like these are 300 and above, and they can't pay them. And people have like back fees that they're not able to pay. Oh, she didn't say, but like from when there wasn't a way to get a license. Sigue adelante, amor.
sí. Entonces, pues a mí nunca me han puesto la multa, pero sí me han puesto un warning antes que yo no vendiera, porque a mí la policía también me seguía mucho.
So,
Cuando yo llevaba,
momento, Omar. So I haven't received a fine, thank God, but they have given me lots of warnings, and the police like have chased me and followed me around.
entonces, a mí me seguía mucho la policía también con mis niñas cuando yo salía a vender. Yo sé que esto no es un delito andar vendiendo. Es una necesidad que tenemos nosotros como seres humanos también, porque en este país también se paga todo.
Okay, momentito, Omar. So I've been followed a lot with my police and harassed, oftentimes with my children with me. And yes, I know that it was a criminal penalty to vend without a license, but it is a necessity for us to be able to live in this country. And I pay everything. I think she means her taxes.
So I hate to interrupt, but I just want to make sure we have time for everybody who wants to speak tonight. So maybe if we could ask to wrap up this particular comment.
Y Mari, puedes que decir otras dos frases más y necesitamos seguir a la próxima persona.
Ok, sí, lo que más necesitamos ahorita es que nos ayuden con la licencia. Es lo que más necesitamos nosotros para no seguir acosadas por la policía y para no seguirnos escondiendo de ellos.
So what we're really pidiendo, like we're really asking or we're really pleading with you today is support us to have real access to our licenses. And, sentence of context, you can't get a license if you can't pass the clean hands certification, so that we don't have to live in fear from the police constantly persecuting us.
Thank you very much for your comments. We appreciate hearing from you tonight. Thank you.
Okay, muchas gracias.
Other comments from the community? Are there other members before? I see Commissioner Pinckney and George have their hands raised, but before we go to them, I just want to make sure that any other members of the community who have questions or want to speak have an opportunity to do so. Okay, Commissioner Pinckney, just for Commissioners Pinckney,
Briefly.
George, and Abel, just remember that the agenda item is not on the table tonight. So just please remember that as you're speaking. So Commissioner Pinckney?
Yes. I want to speak to let those people know that I absolutely hear you, and that the way in which the document is written, it doesn't really speak to what you all are speaking to that would give you voice. So it is, I'm happy to have heard that so that we as a commission can really talk together and come up with something that's going to help persons in you all's situation, but also help others. And I think giving us a chance to speak to one another and hash this out will allow us to come up with maybe one or two resolutions as a result of communicating. And I really thank you and Commissioner Abel for providing us this opportunity to hear from you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner George?
Yeah, I just had one quick question for the witnesses who so kindly shared their testimony with us. Am I understanding correctly that some of the fines that are preventing access to the Clean Hands license are fines from the prior licensing regime when it was a criminal offense to vend without a license? And those accumulated fines are preventing people from obtaining clean hand certificates today so that they can vend legally?
Do you know the answer to that, Commissioner Bell?
Yeah, I do, but it might be better for police to answer it. So to respond to that, yes, in many, as far as the decriminalization, as part of that, there was also an amnesty program that was put on, but the amnesty program has not been implemented yet. So the fines are still on paper, still there, so they can't. So that is preventing several folks from getting their license. So there's even an ongoing lawsuit at the same time as well that is going on. But yes, some of those fines are the fines from the decriminalization, but there's also some licensed people who had licenses were also accruing what's called minimum sales tax, which you have to pay whether or not you work. So like they were paying a $300 per quarter fee, even though they were not out and vending. So that was accruing all throughout the pandemic, and they still have to pay that even though they didn't make any sales during that, because it's a minimum and they have to pay the minimum. So those kinds of fees have also accumulated and are preventing people from this. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner. And you also have your hand raised?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly, thank you so much for coming, Teresa and Marie Guzman. I just wanted to point out both of them live in Commissioner Pickney's SMD, and Marie actually vends in 4D03 next to Truesdale. So she not only is a resident of 4D, but is also works in 4D in front of Truesdale. So many of you might have bought some mangoes and things from her and some juice that she sells. So just keep that in mind. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other new business before the commission tonight? No? Okay, if not, we have a number of things to vote on. First thing up is approval of the calendar and the meeting schedule for 24 to 25, with the one change of June 19th to June 26th. I move to approve the calendar, or the meeting schedule. Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Meeting schedule is approved. Next up, we have joining the ANC Security Fund for, is it $50, Commissioner Cornelius? I forgot, or $25, $50.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a
So
second?
moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Approved to join the ANC Security Fund. Next up, we have approval of the Q1 quarterly financial report by
So
Treasurer
moved.
Porteous. Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Quarterly financial report is approved. Next up, we have the BZA case for 333 Delafield Place, which they are seeking endorsement to add 2 units to the basement. I move that we approve the endorsement. Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
I abstain.
One abstention from Commissioner Pinckney. The motion carries though.
Yes.
Next, I'm sorry, Commissioner?
No, I said yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Next up, we have the BZA case for 5006 North Capitol Street. Commissioner Morensic, would you like us to vote on this tonight or would you like to postpone?
I think so. I've heard that everyone is comfortable voting on it, so I would make a motion that we approve this.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next up, we have a resolution for the Hampshire Gardens Co-op, and since this is a resolution, we have to do a roll call vote. I propose that we adopt the resolution. Can I have a second?
Seconded.
Second.
Commissioners, when I call your name, please say aye if you approved the adoption of the resolution. Commissioner Pinckney,
Aye.
Commissioner Abell,
Aye.
Commissioner Lucarelli is not here. Commissioner Corniotis,
Aye.
Commissioner Morensic,
Aye.
Commissioner George,
Aye.
Commissioner Weigel,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well, so the resolution carries. And that's it. We are postponing the resolution on DC Clean Hands. Did I miss anything? Did I capture everything that we were supposed to vote on? Okay, then I move that we adjourn. Can I have a second?
Second.
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 All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned. Have a good month, everybody. We will see you all here in February. Stay warm, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good
Take care.
evening.